Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here, and welcome to another very exciting tutorial. Today, we're going to be taking a look at creating some magic effects inside of After Effects. So, let's take a look at what we're going to be doing. All right. Yes. Wait for it. All right, so what we have here is some smoke, some force fields, some lens flares, and some color correction. And the idea is we basically want to create a really cool looking natural effect. So great for movie effects like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Shawshank Redemption, things like that. And we're going to try to create them right here in After Effects. So I've got this shot. And by the way, this little film is a promo video for an iPhone app that we created that basically turns people into demons with video and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Check it out, demoncam.com. All right, so let's go and get started. What I have here is a shot of Janae pretending to block a magical blast. And what we want to do is enhance it a little bit. So we have the medieval light switch in the background. I wouldn't worry about that. What I have is this magic effect. So it's kind of like a fume effect simulation from 3D Max, and it's pretty basic. If you know anything about fume, basically it's emitting the particles and it's hitting a sphere, which is deflecting it, and it's kind of looking like a force field. So what we're going to do is just bring this out into our comp, and by the way, I'll make this available inside of the project file. So we'll scale it up here. Let's set the transfer mode to add, and that way it just kind of brightens it up a bit. And we'd want it to come on about right here. So we'll just drag the beginning of it and then slide this over. So now we want it to be a lot bigger, because if it's a force field, it's got a protector, and we want to make sure. That's cool. Maybe a little deeper even. All right, so looking good. Maybe hit T, lower the opacity just a touch. All right. So this is looking pretty good. Now, one of the things I like to do when you're doing magic effects is try not to just use, CG created effects or plugins. You want to actually combine it with things that are going to actually look natural and realistic. So in this case, we're going to be using a powder hit from Action Essentials 2, which is one of our stock footage collections for doing guns and blood and explosions and stuff. But there's some really cool powder hits, and this particular one is really cool. So we'll take it and we'll stick it on top. And the idea is when this thing hits, it explodes, and maybe hit S and we'll scale it up a bit. So this is supposedly the magic that's kind of falling to the ground that has been blocked by this great force field. So that's looking pretty good so far. Now, I think in the original video, everything is blue, but maybe what we can do here is make it orange and just change it up just a bit. So, all right, so this is looking pretty good. We've got the particle effects, and it's looking really nice. Now, I just want to be clear about something. Even though we're using the Action Essentials collection, you can of course film your own elements. You don't have to just buy it just because I'm using it and I recommend it. I just don't want people to feel like they have to buy stuff to do these tutorials. So just want to make that clear. Now, the next thing we're going to do is add some lens flares, and we're going to be using videocopilot's optical flares. Really great product. I really recommend buying it. So what I'm going to do is just make a new solid, and we'll hit OK. And here it is, optical flares. We'll drop that onto a new solid there. Awesome. Anyway, here's how this works. We go into the options, and we're just going to pick a preset. So if we go over to the browser, we can see a bunch of presets here. And let's try the cool flare. I like this one. So, and we'll add a streak to it. That's cool. And then we'll hit OK. And we've got a flare. So move this over. Again, we'll set the transfer mode here to something like add. And again, we're going to make this an orange flare. So we'll go with that. So what we want to do is make it look like this lens effect is coming towards Janae. So what we'll do is we'll go to the effects here. We'll bring it off screen and maybe turn the brightness down and set a keyframe. Also for the position, we'll set a keyframe. And then we'll move forward, hit U, and we'll just bring it to contact. So we'll turn up the brightness here. So space that out a bit. We know when we want it to hit, so we can kind of back time it so that it hits at the right time. And maybe make it come slightly at an angle. And then when it hits, what we want to do is keyframe the brightness to kind of go up and then down to nothing, so that we just kind of create a cool hit. And let's take a look. So that's pretty good, but it's not quite as violent as we might want it to be. So let's duplicate the flare. So we'll do edit, duplicate, and we'll turn the brightness up, and then we'll just shrink the layer size. So we can just drag this in a bit. Also, if you just grab Alt, begin bracket, that'll trim the first frame there to wherever your current time is. So this way it flashes, so it hits. F9, make that fade out nice and gradual. So that's a little bit better. We might even duplicate that and like offset the time, so it kind of just creates a big, blast of light. Maybe darken this one or bring the brightness of it down a bit. So basically, just kind of make it look like some craziness is going on. Now, another really cool way to improve this effect is to add some distortion. So what I'm going to do is create a new solid, or actually a new adjustment layer. So I'll choose new adjustment layer. And there's an effect called ripple. I think we can just drop that right down here. And let's put it right above the footage. So we'll hit return, call this ripple. And then we'll solo the bottom layers while we take a look at this. And then we can turn the radius up here, and we'll turn up the height. So we can kind of see the distortion happening right here. And let's just play around with the settings. So it hits about here. So we could turn up the width a bit, wave height. And then we can animate the ripple sort of phase. So let's do that. We'll hit that keyframe, hit U, and then we can see the keyframe in the timeline. And then we can move forward and we'll just animate it a little bit. Maybe bring the radius down. And so it's animating nicely, and now we want to just kind of fade it out. And we can take the wave height and just set a keyframe and just turn it down to 0. And that way it comes on. And then we can sort of turn it down to 0 as it fades off. So let's just make sure that it animates, the phase animates the whole time. Now, alone, this looks, like a bad effect where we're about to go into a dream sequence, like on Saved by the Bell. But combining that with all of our other effects, will actually be kind of interesting. So we can, of course, you know, tweak some of the settings here, slow it down. Symmetrical will be interesting. I think maybe we want to just punch this up a lot. Turn up the width. So it's kind of subtle, but it's cool because it adds that kind of, you know, natural, you know, what's going on look. You know, you can play around with both of those modes. They both seem to do a really good job of making her look like a monster. So, you know, that's great. Sorry, Janae. Actually, I like symmetrical, actually. It's kind of cool. So right at that point in time, we can shift it over. So, all right, pretty cool. Now, we can do some other things like tint the color of these elements, like the smoke. We could add a curves adjustment. Maybe just punch up the red, or even add a tint effect. It's at the bottom there. So just change the color here to like red, and we can set the transfer mode to add, which is probably off screen there. But like, you know, just doing little subtle things like that, you know, can really, you know, change the look of the effect. You know, it can really give it a unique look, you know, that you haven't really seen a lot before. We can even duplicate this hit and maybe scale it up. Maybe turn down the opacity a little bit, you know, just make it even, you know, crazier, like there's just particles flying everywhere, you know, like you have the clip, so just playing around and coming up with some different ideas is a fun thing. You can also do things like add in camera shake. So I think on Video Copilot we have no less than about 80 tutorials that cover the use of camera shake. So if you go to the tutorial section, just type in camera shake, and you can find a bunch of different methods for doing it. So pretty straightforward. So this is the basic idea for creating these kind of magic effects. You just want to go in there, start layering things together. Another idea is if you own Action Essentials, you can go through, you know, there's some really cool atmosphere, you know, elements like smoke and things that you can add to make the scene a little bit more, you know, mysterious. There's a really cool element here in the fire collection. It's called Torch Windy. And it's great for putting like fire torches in the background. Actually, in the film, one of the things we did was we added these fire elements to the torches so it looked like there was some real fire burning in the room. But there's some other ideas you could do. So I could bring this out, and we'll just solo the two layers here. And I could just move it over. We can actually maybe scale it up. Here, let's add a tint effect and set the transfer mode to add. So that's pretty good. And then what we can do is we can scale this up a little bit. And we can see right here where the fire is burning. And we can actually put this right on top of her head. And then if we hit P, we can animate it. So we just kind of follow the grooves of her head, and let's take a look. So it kind of looks like her head is on fire, and frankly, it's just one of those things when you see it, you're like, yes, you know, and this is one of those things I wish I had saw before, because I would have made the whole movie like this. I just think if you can have a character that has their head on fire, it's just a really great opportunity, you know. Think about that movie with Nicolas Cage. What is that called? He's got like a skull for a head. He rides a motorcycle and he has like chains and stuff, and his head is on fire. What is that called? National Treasure? Or was that Gone in 60 Seconds? You know? I can't remember. Oh well. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I know it wasn't too intense, but definitely some people asking about putting these type of effects together. So hopefully this has helped you out. My name is Andrew Kramer, and we will see you next time. Sorry, Nicolas Cage. I love you.